This is Fit to Succeed in partnership with NordicFitnessEducation.com with hosts Ben Pratt. Thanks for joining us.
We got crazy with the movements. We got crazy with the balance. We got, if a little bit, you know how it is, if a little bit of instability is good, then a lot of instability is better. So we came up with the Bosu balls. We started standing on stability balls. We started kneeling on stability balls and doing curls and all of that. And you know who called me on that? Because, hey, I was part of that. Right. I was part of that wave because it was the best thing that was coming. And you got to be part of the wave to explore the genre.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to this episode of the Fit to Succeed show. I'm excited today because I have somebody who I first came across their content perhaps way back in 2003, and he's given me the honor of being a guest on my show. He is the director of the Institute of Human Performance. He's a world-class strength conditioning coach. It is JC Santana. JC, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on a podcast and just to have your information wanted. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on the podcast is because you have spent a lot of years getting your head into not just strength conditioning, but also functional training. And indeed, your last two books have really focused on these topics of functional training and transforming our bodies. Now, just to try and lead our listeners into your content, I noticed in your latest book, Total Body Transformation, that you have coined a term which I hadn't heard before, which is spiri-emotional paradigm. Would you mind clarifying that philosophy for us and what that means?
In simple terms, we are using physical effort. Well, spiri-emotionally talks about the spirit, emotions, and body. Motion, emotion, and spirit, right? Mm-hmm. And we have come to the conclusion that training is no different than any other, say, uncomfortable or painful discipline. And you can find them in religious texts back to the eons. People have always used big efforts, discomfort, and pain for the purpose of spiritual transcendence. And it's organic. It's organic. The reason that people stay in a gym when they haven't lost the weight and they haven't looked the way they wanted to look, or they haven't gotten what they came in to get, but they stay there for 7 years, is because something else has changed that they're very happy with, that they didn't even know has changed, and they didn't even come asking for it to change. Mm-hmm. But something's changed, and that is, for lack of a better word, the spirit. However, we don't use the spirit because that gets into religious realm and people get freaky over it. So we use the human will as to indicate that, what you're willing to do, mm-hmm. the faith of man, what you think, what you will make happen because you know will happen. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we say that the IHP trainer resets the barometer of the human will.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
It's not about VO2, man. And it's not about lactate threshold, and it's not about white fibers, red fibers, fast. It's none of that, because you find people who are higher in all of those categories that lose. So what is it? What is it? So if it was VO2, we train people. Who's the highest VO2? Boom, you get the trophy. The Tour de France is done. We don't have a Tour de France. Well, the reason you do that is because the drama of sports. What is that drama? The drama is the display of human will. I impose my will on that person. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, fantastic. You kind of alluded there to this idea that it isn't always down to the physical traits, but sometimes it's down to the mind, perhaps driving the body a bit more. But how does this idea of spirit, emotion, and body, how does that relate to training intensity and perhaps somebody's ability to actually overcome the pain that they're enduring through sporting performance or through an exercise or a workout?
Well, that's all right. So here it is. Take a simple exercise, bicep curls. Okay, at number 8, okay, a person may wince. All right, why are they wincing? You're their trainer. You gave them 10 reps. Why? Because you know darn well that they can do 10 reps with this. Will it be require effort? Of course, it's called resistance training because it offers resistance. Mm-hmm. But at number 8, they start wincing. Well, why are they wincing? They're wincing because they're feeling a perception that they have identified as hard. Mm-hmm. Indeed. And they always wince at 8. They never wince at 6, and they don't wince at 9. They wince at 8.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a model that's known in the spiritual world as this. The past casts a shadow on the present to ensure the future will not change.
Right.
That means everything that you have modeled and everything you've known that you believe to be true in the past walks with you. And if you don't get rid of that, you don't evolve.
Right.
So the wincing is every time I feel like this is hard. So they've already identified hard. How come their hard and your hard is not the same?
Yeah.
Because it's relative to a person's experience. They programmed that effort and they assigned it hard. Well, that's your old story. It was hard 3 months ago when you joined. It's no longer hard. Okay. And when you feel this, you don't have to wince, because the wincing is taking the past into the present, sabotaging the present. So therefore the future is automatically sabotaged. So that's an incredible, powerful model. So how do you do that? You don't like the pain. You don't hate the pain. Because if you hate it, the opposite you love. If you love it, the opposite you hate. So by creating a friend, you've already created an enemy, which is the direct opposite. Mm-hmm. You accept the perception as what it is. What it is, it's rep number 8. It's not hard. It's not easy. It's rep number 8. Does it require more effort? Yeah. But you don't wince when you're going faster in your car. Is there a higher rate of injury or chance of injury? Accidents? Yeah, it carries all of that. But you don't wince when you're passing a car. You just hit the gas and you pass. That's it. More effort, you pass.
One of the things that I can relate to on that is I watch a lot of athletics. I quite like athletics. And when you particularly watch the sprinters, even when they're performing at their best, they do their darndest to keep their face relaxed and calm. They don't put on, and you know they're putting in maximal effort. They're trying to run the fastest they can possibly run, but their faces are completely relaxed.
And that's why our number one cue, just generic cue, we don't go into the spirit conversation and stuff like that. Relax your face. Mm-hmm. And in the combat world, we used to say relax your face because we didn't want to show any weakness and we didn't want to show any expression to the opponent. Right, but little by little, what happened? The mouthpieces came up. Remember? Right. The mouthpieces that used to cost $2,500.
Oh, wow. It's a lot of money for a mouthpiece.
Oh, yeah. Now our Armour sells them for $500 and they're actually dropped the price. But the mouthpiece was to put your jaw in the right position. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it lowers and brings the jaw forward. And they have theories of what happens to the cranial nerves and respiration and all that. But it's been proven if your jaw is in the right position, you can exert more force. Right. At least they've done some studies to that effect, and that's the research they use to sell the mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. So what do you do when you relax the face? And what do you do when you tighten up the face? You bring the jaw back and up. Mm-hmm. Okay, what do you do when you relax the face? Down and forward. Right. So little did we know that maybe this whole bravado, don't show pain and relax your face, had other unintended consequences. And it was those unintended consequences that actually helped you, not what we thought, you know? So sure. It's a cool story. It's an observation. You know, I don't know if that's all that is true, but it's certainly true that when you relax your face, you can do a lot better and you can put a lot more force without a doubt. What is happening with the mandible position? I'm done with that. It's beyond my pay grade.
Yeah, no worries. Certainly, it's an interesting thought. And just before we move on to the next thought, I recently introduced my son to the gym, and I used that training point, having read your book. I was like, I'm just going to say this to him and see, because he doesn't have that, like you said, the past background of when you get to a certain level, you should show the challenge on your face. And actually, I find him hard to read now because he's so calm and he's doing his reps. And he'll tell me the intensity is quite high, but I can't see it in his face. So, maybe, setting up a brand new sort of neurological pattern there. Yeah.
It's a paradigm. You know what that does? That allows you to stay on the now. What is now? Now is not hard. Oh my God, the next 2 reps are going to be difficult. No, now it's 8. I need 1 more. You're at 9. You need 1 more. And then you can coach life with that.
Yes.
So what did you do? Okay. So what did you do? You stayed in the moment. You were going rep by rep without letting the previous rep and your previous life, and your previous stories affect the moment. How can you use that in life? Well, somebody upsets you, says something, and you automatically assume that's this. Boom. Oh, they said that because they meant this and they meant that. And what if tomorrow, and you start creating these animals, and you just didn't take the moment for the moment. Eckhart Tolle, Watkins, all these great spiritual leaders talk about the present moment, and that's all you have. Well, Relax Your Face is all about the Eckhart Tolle now model.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Boom.
I like that. Okay, now you recently, in 2015, wrote your book, Functional Training, and certainly functional training has been around for quite a bit longer, or certainly the theory or the ideas of trying to train for function. And I would say, and I'm sure you found this, JC, that it's applied in so many different ways, in so many different formats, that a lot of people have now kind of chiseled out their own opinion as to what function or functional training really is. Could you perhaps give us your perspective or how you would define what is functional training?
You know, look, all these are fads. Whatever you want to call a fad, or if it's not a fad, it's cycles. If it's not, it's something novel. Functional training is no different. I was part of that. You know, Vern Gambetta, Gary Gray were my predecessors. Those are the guys who set the pace. And then Michael Clark, Greg Cook, and you know, Mike Boyle and all that, all of us, we kind of came in behind them, right?
Yes.
So the big thing about functional training, the big takeaway was we went from isolation movement, bicep curls, preacher curls, and leg extensions to movement. So we said we train movements, not muscles. That's probably the best thing to do. Now, we got crazy with the movements. We got crazy with the balance. We got, if a little bit, you know how it is, if a little bit of instability is good, then a lot of instability is better. So we came up with the Bosu balls. We started standing on stability balls. We started kneeling on stability balls and doing curls and all of that. And you know who called me on that? Because, hey, I was part of that. Right. I was part of that wave because it was the best thing that was coming. And you got to be part of the wave to explore the genre. Mm-hmm. If you don't explore the genre, you don't know the benefits. You don't keep the little pearls and discard 98% of the dirty water. You got to do it. But you got to consume 100% of the water so you can figure out what 98% is junk. Yeah. You can't sit on the sidelines, man, and talk about the game. You got to get in the game, get hit, bleed, and then go, okay, this is no good. We keep this. So we started that. You know who called me out? Mel Siff. Mel Siff did. Oh, wow. Mel Siff called me out. And he says, you can't produce force from a stability ball. Okay. And I'm going, yeah. And I had a little reason, but not good enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you need to integrate other musculature that movement doesn't integrate. Well, a little bit of both of those things is true. Mm-hmm. So we threw out all of the balance equipment. We only kept AirX pads because we need very little balance. Mm-hmm. Because movement and momentum, through angular momentum, through centripetal forces, through tangential acceleration, and all these beautiful qualities that keep the planets rolling and keep a bike upright, whether somebody's on it or not. If you throw it with enough speed, it'll stay upright for a few yards. And why a ball can spin on your finger, but you can't hold it on your finger. All of that is what balances you. Yes. So we don't need to do all of this balance. However, we are finding, and we're on the cusp of that because now we got functional bodybuilding. We are finding that this, for example, a leg curl on a stability ball. Okay? Oh, really? If you do, you've seen that. You know, you go from that bridge position and you flex your knee, all right? Mm-hmm. Single leg. You know, it's kind of difficult, all right? What we're finding is that hands-on ball push-ups, stability ball curls, and that type of movement does bring some muscle fibers online. Sure. What we're suspecting is that when you go back to your leg curls, those new muscles that are playing want to play with the leg curls too. Yeah, right. Interesting. And what some of our bodybuilders are saying, they go, we don't know why, but we're getting muscle formation and muscle bellies fuller when we employ some of this stuff. We don't know exactly how to employ it. Pre-fatigue, post-fatigue, days off, recovery. We don't know how yet. So they're just throwing stuff on the wall, but we're getting fuller muscles. Mm-hmm. We're getting fuller muscles. We don't know why, but figure it out because we're getting fuller muscles.
Well, that's an interesting tidbit. I certainly, I think I recall Gary Gray. I attended a few of his seminars over the years. I recall him talking about that balance training is about the ground being stable and we're the dynamic thing moving on the ground rather than with something like a stability ball or a Bosu. It's the surface that is unstable and we're actually trying to remain still on an unstable surface, which is exactly the opposite of what true balance is all about.
Yes, but in order to do that, then you have to destabilize the upper body and you're never going to get there.
Mhm.
So you're going to have to artificially bring in some things, although they may look a little weird. The only thing is you can't make the weird stuff in 80% of your training.
Mhm.
So now bodybuilding machines and all that is super coming back to IHP.
Oh, really? Wow.
Super. Yeah. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, look, in fitness, they want muscles fast. An attorney wants to get the rounded shoulders, big arms and all that. They don't want to wait 2 years. And you're never going to do that doing stability ball push-ups. Never.
Mhm.
So if you get them on a bench press or chest machines and flies, you're going to get that muscular stuff. But at the same time, he wants to play golf. So you can't keep him on all the machines. So what do? So I came up with a hybrid system so I could use the rest in bodybuilding to do my functional stuff, not get in the way of what I was doing, so I could reap the benefits of everything. Mm-hmm. And so we're creating big monsters. We work with NFL guys. We work with big fighters, super heavyweight fighters. So we're creating muscular monsters that move like middleweights.
Oh, that's a great concept.
You know what I'm saying? So boom, done.
Another concept you raise in your book is you have this idea of using the minimal level of training to deliver the maximum results that you can find. Could you explain what you mean by that and how that might be effectively applied?
Great question, because we just talked about that yesterday with one of our reps. And it's not so much it's the maximum benefit, but we got to redefine the benefit. Because the maximum benefit is not my strength on the exercise. My maximum benefit is my performance. So here's where my paradigm has changed. And we used to use this to machines. How much strength is enough? Optimal strength. So how much bench press do you need? Well, you need as much bench press, where more bench press doesn't improve your MMA skills, your golfing skills, your whatever. Mm-hmm. So if you're bench pressing 100 pounds and you're hitting the ball 320 and driving the ball 320, and you go up to 340 and you still hit at 320, guess what? The 100 was enough.
Yeah, for sure.
The 100 was enough. So we have to also apply, but we didn't apply that how much strength is enough to functional training. So we thought, well, if one arm push-ups, you can do 10, 20 is better. And so we had the Steve Cotter, great guy, great friend of mine, mm-hmm. doing pistols with 2 40-kilo kettlebells. Mm-hmm. Okay, but Steve doesn't jump 10 feet. He doesn't run faster than anybody else. He's a good athlete, but so that pistol and all this extraordinary functional it's not functional. Right. It's also a circus act in the functional realm. If you could stand on a single leg on a stability ball, that would be incredible. Cirque du Soleil kind of stuff, but that ain't going to make you a better soccer player.
For sure, yeah.
So now we want to do the minimum amount of training, traditional or otherwise, or functional, to give me the minimal strength that I need for optimum performance in that sport. Mm-hmm. And you may only need 3 single leg squats. That's it. 3 single leg squats with a trailing knee to the ground. You can do 3, bro. You're strong enough. What else do we want? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can do 5 perfect push-ups, 1-arm push-ups. I don't need you with a vest. I don't need you with your feet up in the air. I don't need you freestanding acrobatic stuff. I don't need it. Just because you can do an iron cross, you got incredible shoulders and strength. That doesn't mean you're going to punch better. That doesn't mean you're going to bat better. It doesn't mean you're going to do anything better. So we can't get crazy with the level of skills in the training, in the exercises. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We do the minimum amount we need to be able to punch the hardest, to be able to run the hardest, to be able to jump the hardest. And if you want to see some crazy stuff, we are training jump train all wrong. Vertical jumps all wrong. I'll send you videos which will prove my point. I don't care what the research says because my eyes don't lie. Everybody's doing Olympic weightliftings for vertical jumps. Everybody. That is the wrong thing to do because you don't jump that way. Okay. It looks like you jump that way, but you do not.
So go on then. Tell me the key things to change there.
The key thing is, one thing, I can give it to you, ankle stiffness.
Right. Too stiff in the ankles or trying to...
Forget flexibility. You don't need flexibility. You need stiffness in the ankle, stiffness in the knee, and stiffness in the hip. You don't need range of motion. Look at jumps. Look at the dunk contest. And you will see jumps from a single leg, and you will see jumps from double legs. Mm-hmm. And it's all in front of you. You may just not know what to look at. I'm going to give it to you now. Look at the feet. And you will see that outside of running to a single leg, you never plant on 2 feet flat. which is the essence of Olympic weightlifting, deadlifting, and everything. Drive through the heels. These people don't drive through the heels. They drive through the ball of the foot. Even when they're running on 2-foot jumps, the heels are off the ground by a little bit.
Right.
So if the heels come down when the knee extends, guess what? It's like jumping in sand. You just amortize at the ankle.
Right.
Look at the joint angles at the ankle and the hips. You'll see 15 degrees. You won't even see an RDL. You won't even see that.
Mm-hmm. So you're trying to see springiness, you want to try to see the muscles be able to respond and contract before the heel hits, and then you get that loss of plyometrics.
The muscles don't even contract. That's the thing. Well, they contract, but they don't change length. Right. In the gym, we're teaching force production through a change of muscle length.
For sure.
Concentric, eccentric. That doesn't happen in a jump. It does not happen in a jump. Why? Because the muscles are not producing force. The muscles are stiff, just like a pole in a pole vault. Right. It's stiff to transfer force. That's why you see different mechanics of whether they're walking up to the line to jump and serve in volleyball, whether they're coming full bore on the basketball court and jumping. Look at the mechanics. Look at the triangles that are set up by the legs. You'll see a Christmas tree in volleyball surfers, and then you'll see this triangle like this, okay, when somebody's coming, dribbling full bore, and now they're getting ready for a two-footed jump. In both cases, the heels are off the ground and the knees are barely flexed, and there is basically no hip hinging. The body is erect, and if the knees flex at 15, guess what? Math says the hip probably close to 15.
Mm-hmm. Interesting concept. I'm sure that's going to stir up some thoughts for those who are listening.
Okay, where are the injuries? Are the injuries in jumping? No. The injuries are in training.
This is true.
Injuries are in training with back on the deadlifts, back on the squats, all kinds of elbows and shoulders on snatches and cleans. Oh, dude, I'm a level 2 coach with the USA Weightlifting, and I competed till I was 40 in Olympic weightlifting. I love the sport. I love MMA too. But if you want to drop 10 pounds, I'm not going to beat the living tar out of you, because I'm not going to use one sport to do something else when that something else can be done with something much easier and much less traumatic.
It's an interesting thought.
I'm creating a jump machine that is basically a glorified standing calf machine with pivots so you can move side to side and all that.
Cool. We'll keep our eye out for that.
Now, I'm designing it right now in China as we speak.
That's amazing. I look forward to seeing that. That'll be great. One of the things I wanted to just touch on there, JC, is in that sort of discussion, you talked about transferring to optimal function in sporting performance. Now, obviously today there are sports now that the performance is fitness oriented, things like CrossFit or powerlifting. There isn't another thing for them to go and perform in. They are actually performing in that fitness environment that would look just like the training that they would do. Now, I know you've expressed some concerns in the past about some elements or aspects of CrossFit or powerlifting. Would you perhaps clarify what those concerns are and your rationale behind them? Before
CrossFit was a sport, I said CrossFit would not last 5 years. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think, something like that, maybe 6. CrossFit wasn't a sport yet. It might have been location competition, but it wasn't the Reebok sport that it is today.
Yeah, sure.
It has ill training methods, because snatches and cleans are single, doubles, and triple, okay? Because they're low rep range, because they're highly skilled. Not only are they highly skilled move, a very select group of the population has the orthopedic design to be able to do them and get away with it. Namely, full squats and overhead positions. Some shoulders just are not built for that. And you can force them to do it, but you know what's going to happen? You're going to have a shoulder replacement by the time you're 50 if you do that craziness for 5 years.
Right.
Same thing with the hip. Take it from somebody who never had problems until he started Olympic weightlifting. And I had great coaches. I had 2 Olympic coaches coaching me one-on-one, Leo Totten and Rafael Guerrero. Boom. So my technique was flawless. And in 2 years, I went from healthy to, oh my God. And in 4 years, I had my first hip replacement.
Right.
I've
Do you
talked
think
to,
it's that they encourage too much repetition? There's too much repetitive loading because they focus on just a few exercises overall?
bro, they're using snatches for conditioning. Are you insane?
Mm.
Are you going to take the general population, teach them how to do a handspring, and then have them do 500 handsprings so they can be explosive and be in good shape? That's the equivalent.
Right.
Well, how many people can do handsprings and get away with it? Not many. How many can do 200 of them in a row just so they can get in shape?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to screw people up. If it wouldn't have been for the sport, there is no justification for CrossFit methods. None. Zero. Zero, 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 zero. Glassman did a wonderful job doing two things. Number one, bringing fitness to the population. Hey, these are things you can do. Okay, and creating a sport to substantiate the insanity that is CrossFit training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. It's just like MMA. I'm not going to throw stones at CrossFit because I play MMA fighters and I like MMA. How insane is that? Two people beating the tar out of each other. Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
It is.
much crazier than CrossFit. Much crazier than CrossFit. Okay, so I'm not going to throw stones, but I don't recommend to brand new people, all right, to learn how to fight and actually go in and spar just so they can lose weight. No. Train like a fighter without getting hit. You can do burpees, but you're not going to sprawl at somebody coming at you at 20 miles an hour. No, we're not going to do that.
I see.
Because the incidence of headbutts and trauma go through the roof. Well, you know what? You may be able to do a high pull. Okay, you can do high pulls, no problem. But you ain't going to do no snatches for 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. That's insane. That's just insane. That's stupidity at its optimal. Now, what happened? You create a sport. Now we have to do it.
Now we have to do it.
Okay. All right. Cool. That was brilliant. I love it. And congratulations to Glassman. I have no problems with him. I have no problems with CrossFit as a sport. Zero. I'm good. He does CrossFit. I do MMA. We're both insane. we're good.
Now, you kind of imply there that the issue is not necessarily the sport per se. It's the level of conditioning of the person coming in who might be trying something new, but it's actually quite risky. Now, in your book, you also talk about this concept of individual ability, that we train people to their current individual ability rather than whether they're male or female, how old they are, what status or what classification they might be. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, everybody has, well, these are rehab exercises. Oh, those are post-rehab. I go, all right, who defined rehab and post-rehab? You know who defined them? The medical insurance companies.
Oh, really?
Because it's rehab. Oh, well, what's rehab? Rehab is what happens after trauma. Mm-hmm. And usually you're in the care of a rehab specialist. Who's that? Physical therapist. Ain't nobody going to no physical therapist out of pocket. The insurance pays.
Sure.
Okay, when does the insurance dictates how long it's going to take him to make you functional, which is BS because it depends on the trauma, the person, your history, etc. So you got 12 visits. After 12 visits, it's automatically post-rehab.
Right.
Magic. It's magic. It's in one day, Friday, you're now post-rehab. So it's nonsense. I had hip surgery. 2 weeks after my hip surgery, I'm doing exercises that my 85-year-old mother can't do. So is the exercise a post-rehab exercise, a rehab exercise, an elderly exercise, or what is it? No, it's a quarter squat or it's a parallel squat.
It's just an exercise.
a month, I think it was a month out or 2 months out. I forgot. I'm pushing cars. I think it's 2 months out. I'm pushing cars. Well, is that a post-rehab? Because 2 months out, you're really, okay, maybe barely post-rehab after a hip replacement. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm pushing my Navigator. Not around the parking lot, but I'm pushing at 20 meters. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so is that so is 20 meters rehab? And then the full parking lot, nothing. So it's all BS.
Yeah, I understand.
It's intensity. Okay, I got women that train harder than men. So is that women training? Or is that sissy dude training? What is it? Got it? So, no.
Yeah, I got it. So the concern is the categorization of things rather than just matching to someone's current ability.
It's the labeling, bro. We want to label everybody. ADD. He's not ADD. He just doesn't do well under the British system of sit down, shut up, listen to me, and regurgitate. You got to stand this. He's got a gestalt mind. Stand him up, move him, and the kid's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another thing that you bring out in your book is I like, because obviously we could take an exercise, as you just mentioned, say you're doing a quarter squat as part of your rehab, prehab, whatever you want to categorize it. So you're doing a quarter squat, but we could identify ways of progressing that or regressing that. And you use the term tweak categories. Would you mind expanding on your 4 tweak categories and how we might, let's stick with that example, how we might vary the quarter squat with those tweak categories?
The word tweak I got from Gary Gray, because in his manual he has what he coins tweakology.
Yes, I've watched that one. That's a good one.
Okay, which is what I'm getting ready to tell you. And I didn't do that. Gary Gray, my guru, my mentor, taught me that. You can adjust the lever arm of an exercise. Everybody knows that. You elevate a push-up is easy. You bring it down, it's hard because the lever grows. Okay, you can manipulate the speed. I used to say faster is harder, but not all the time. You do an anterior reach fast, it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier if you do it hard because you use momentum to get you down there.
I'm with you.
All right. There's some things that speed makes easier. And there's some things that slower speed makes harder. Time under tension. Yes. You use speed, lowering the speed to make it tougher. So you can manipulate the speed. You can manipulate the lever arm. You can manipulate the base. You can go from parallel stance to staggered stance. For example, a cable deadlift. Bro, if you only have 40 pounds, you go, God, I do this all the time. There's nothing. Get on a staggered stance and put all 40 on one hip and see what happens.
Yeah.
The world changes. The world changes. It's pretty much like 2-arm push-up, no problem. Okay, go do a 1-arm push-up. Open your legs, get good base. Now, rock and roll without twisting the body and without going into contortions. It's a different animal. Yeah. So so those are the things you can do. You can do lever arm, you can do base of support, you can do speed, and you can do range of motion. So you can do a quarter squat, or you can do a full squat and get more. You can do a short wood chop. You can do a long range wood chop and use more energy, move more mass over a longer distance, do more work.
I think those are just regularly forgotten ways of adapting and adjusting exercise. So often people get caught up in only ever looking at sets and reps and the weight that they're lifting. And, I love to mess with some of those variables. I think they make the training, first of all, a lot more interesting. But like you said, they prepare you better for activity and sporting performance.
Yeah, but you know what? Look how we're taught. How are we taught? We come from a world of pounds and kilos. So you want to make something more difficult? Put more kilos on it. So we come from a world of numbers. It's either 90 or 85 or 100. Okay, we know which is greater. We weren't taught, I don't want to say kinesiology, but we weren't taught the tweaks. And once you teach somebody, you go, oh, okay. And they start looking at the world through a different lens, through a different prism. And it becomes rather innate. It's very organic. They were already doing it. But now they know what they're doing. So once they know what they're doing expands.
Yeah, for sure. This has been a fascinating discussion. I realized we could have had twice as much time, and I still would have had lots of things to ask you.
You said half an hour. I'm going, geez, half an hour. It takes half an hour to say my name.
Well, I do have one more question for you, though, JC, sure. Just to finish up on. And that is that you've obviously been in the industry for a long time. I won't give away your age, but over 3 decades.
I'm going to be 60 in a few months.
Oh, bless you. I wasn't gonna say that, but hey, you've obviously had a full career in this health and fitness strength conditioning industry. If you were to go back knowing what you now know, and you were to speak to young JC who's just starting out in the fitness industry, what advice would you offer him?
This career of coaching and personal training is not a scientifically validated, it's not a scientifically proven, and it's not scientifically driven career. This is a people's career, person's career, personality's career. Inspiring, motivating has nothing to do with kinesiology and biomechanics. Learn enough to know your trade. Then learn everything you can about human nature. What it takes to inspire. What is a leader? Learn that. It's not somebody who can run 3 marathons in one week. That's a physical freak. Follow character. Don't follow acquisition of records, medals, and money. Follow character. What is the character of the person? How are they changing humanity? And develop that. People will follow you when you do that. That is what personal training and coaching. Vince Lombardi didn't know football. Vince Lombardi knew men.
Great speaker, Vince Lombardi. Thank you for that. I think it's a really great piece of advice to end the show on, that to be successful, it's about building character and knowing how to inspire others. Really appreciate your time today, JC. It's been
my pleasure, brother.
A fascinating discussion. Thank you.
And anytime you need me, you know how to get me.
I do.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share via social media. You can also rate the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. If you'd like to know more about us, then check out our range of online courses at www.nordicfitnesseducation.com.